Talking to Death is released every Friday and brought to you absolutely free. But if you want ad-free listening and exclusive bonuses, subscribe to Tenderfoot Plus at tenderfootplus.com or on Apple Podcasts.
Talking to Death is a production of TenderfootTV and iHeart Podcasts. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Talking to Death. Today is July 5th. Yesterday was America's Independence Day. I don't know about you guys, but I spent the day on a boat, drinking copious amounts of alcohol, as the Founding Fathers would have wanted. But today is a new day, and today we have a fun episode for you. You may have heard of this man, Payne Lindsey, host and creator of Talking to Death, Up and Vanished, High Strange, Atlanta Monster, among many others. Payne was recently featured on the Monica Pearson show, which plays on the Atlanta Journal-Constitution's podcast. Monica Pearson reached out to us recently and hoped that we could play the episode with Payne on Talking to Death. So we're really excited to do that. It's so rare you get to hear from Payne on this show. He's usually the one interviewing. So this will be a fun switch up to where you can actually hear Monica interview Payne, get to know a little bit more about Payne, maybe some things you didn't know or had never heard before. He talks about his journey in podcasting, Tenderfoot as a company, his journey as a musician, and TV, and all the different things he's done through his life, all the things he still wants to do. So without further ado, the man you know and love, Payne Lindsey.
True crime and mystery stories reign supreme in the podcast world. And if you are a frequent listener, you know Payne Lindsey. Lindsey is a director, documentary filmmaker, and podcast host, best known for his award-winning podcast, Up and Vanished. This year, he took audiences out of this world, literally.
Do you feel like you're really, truly alone? Or do you ever look up at the sky and feel like there has to be more out there?
Alongside his co-producer, Donald Albright, his UFO podcast called High Strange delivered more chills than a murder mystery. I'm Monica Pearson. This is The Monica Pearson Show. If there is one thing you know about me, I love Atlanta. Every week, I will introduce you to Atlanta's most groundbreaking innovators and influencers, those inspired by the city to make a mark in our world. If you are from Atlanta or the South, chances are these folks need no introduction at all. This is The Monica Pearson Show from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Payne, you know how long it's been since I've seen you?
I mean, I know it's been years, but how many years is the question?
Too many years, because
like 4, 5?
Oh, it's been longer than that.
Is it?
When you
That's scary.
did Monster, you know?
So that would have been 2017.
Yeah, Atlanta Monster.
Which is crazy.
On
That's
the child
so long ago
missing
now.
and murdered children. I can't believe we've both changed.
Have we?
I'm now gray. And
I swear you look
really
the same,
short.
though.
You're now blonde and short hair, too.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
You know, I didn't realize that you were from Kennesaw, Georgia. You do not even have a Southern accent.
People say that. I mean, if you go hang around my uncles for 5 minutes, it comes out a little bit from me, but I don't know why I got the non-regional thing going on. I didn't consciously try to do it, but it'll come out if I hear my dad say something and I'll say it back. I'm like, oh, here I go. You know?
Now, what was it like growing up in Kennesaw? What's your family like?
My family, so I'm the oldest. I have 2 younger sisters and a younger brother. My brother actually just got married. I grew up in the suburbs, you know, and I was always that kid who was writing stories and filming stuff with the video camera, kind of more introverted. And I kind of just, you know, I wanted to do something like that for my career eventually. But, you know, my parents supported that for the most part until I, you know, used all my dad's college money and he said, you're cut off. And then I felt like a starving artist and had to figure out my stuff for real.
Well, let's go back to you talking about being the oldest in the family. That means you had more responsibility.
Oh, man, I paved the way for all those guys. I mean, they're great, but I mean, I got in trouble first for everything. I mean, my brother got away with everything. I mean, he was throwing house parties and stuff. I mean, my little sister found a beer can one time, and I was grounded for like a week. Because if my dad found one beer can in the yard, There wasn't one.
It had to be
It's
you.
one of 100. we missed one.
So this interest in film, I think you got your first camera when you were 10?
I was in 6th grade, so I guess about 10, yeah. Yeah.
And did you ask for it? How did you come about getting this little gadget?
I did ask for it. My mom had an old Hi8 camera, and I used to like to do plays and stuff for my family, like with my siblings. Then I wanted to be able to watch it back or create it in a way that it didn't have to be live. And so I used my mom's camera, and then eventually I asked for my own camera, and my grandpa gave me one for Christmas, a little VHS camera.
Do you remember the first film that you made?
Yeah, there's a couple of them. I mean, my siblings were always my actors. I did this one with my little sister. It was like a Powerpuff Girl thing where she had this blonde wig on, and it was ridiculous. I gotta find these old tapes, but I was just trying to emulate what I was seeing, on TV and try to make some either scary moment or, how'd you do that? Like with camera tricks and just trying to figure out what I could do to, impress those around me with my skills.
So in high school, you would have been voted most likely to?
I don't know. It's so weird. Like, growing up in Kennesaw, it's like back then, doing this wasn't that cool, which sounds crazy now. Now it's like everyone's a content creator, but I was kind of an outlier a little bit with that. It was, most people don't make it. So it's like, okay, if I'm trying to be an artist or filmmaker, it's like, that's a long shot, right? And it felt like that to me too. I think now I'd be way cooler, but back then I was kind of like, oh, that's that guy who does that weird stuff sometimes, but he's cool. But like, I wasn't like the popular kid per se, but I hung around with those same people, but it was not really like a popular thing to be doing, which I didn't mind, but it's like the total opposite now, which is kind of funny.
Outlier back then, now you're right in the midst of it.
Yeah, and I don't mind that. I like that. I mean, all I ever wanted to do was do what I'm passionate about and be like sustainable. Just be able to create stuff and pay my bills.
Pay your bills.
Like that was just that simple thought.
So you went to college, and then you
sorta, yeah.
unwent to college, and then
That's
you went
correct.
back to college. What's the deal with the college?
You gonna ask me to finish college?
No, I know you didn't.
I mean, I just
And
didn't
why
like
didn't
school.
you explain it? Yeah.
I just, honestly, I hated school. But I wasn't a good student. I always was in my head about thinking about what I was gonna create next and didn't pay attention. Well, I was thinking about the next thing. And I was trying to, make it on my own, even to my own detriment. I was gonna try to do that. And so maybe I learned the hard way, and I kind of did. Once I ran out of my dad's college money, I was like, oh man, now I'm like, a server, and I'm not making that much money, and my dad's not gonna help me with college anymore. I gotta figure this out now. But I ended up figuring it out, but it took years of, just grinding.
How did you come up with the idea of doing a podcast? Because when you started podcasting, it was really new.
It was. I was at a point in my career where I was tired of being broke, and I was tired of doing stuff for other people. I was a music video director, and it was cool at first, and it kind of just became draining. I didn't like, putting all this effort into something that was for someone else, really. And so I just had this idea one day, like, I really like these true crime documentaries. How does someone become the person who does that? Did they just decide one day, hey, I'm gonna do a true crime documentary? I was like, maybe. And so I thought, maybe I should do that. And I listened to Serial because my friend showed it to me. And I was blown away that I, like, with my ADHD brain, was so enthralled by an audio show. And I really, really, truly loved it. I was like, guys, you gotta all check this out. And so I had in my head, maybe I make this true crime documentary, this investigation, but I'll make a podcast as a proof of concept to maybe get the Hollywood execs to bite on me, however this works here. So it was really just a stepping stone in my head. And then that really, blew up and gained traction. Then it became halfway through another business, which became my business.
So that is a lesson for people like you who say, I have a dream, now I just got to figure out the way to make it work.
Oh yeah, I did not set out at all to be, I didn't even understand that you could even make money with a podcast, because there wasn't really a blueprint for that. I didn't know that at all. And so clearly it wasn't like a viable business plan at that time. It ended up being one, but on accident, right?
So how did you get this love for true crime? Because the Tara Grinstead piece.
Like, what's wrong with me, right? Yeah.
No, not what's wrong with you. It's like you have this mind where you like puzzles. Mm-hmm. And you are trying to solve the puzzle. Mm-hmm. So where does this come from?
I think I just had this sort of innate curiosity that I think a lot of people have. Just, like, what happened? Like, why can't we figure that out, right? And so just looking at Tara Grinstead's case, which was season 1 of Up and Vanished, just looking at the log line of the whole thing, I'm like, what happened here? Like, this is ridiculous. How do we not know yet? And it just kind of bothers me a little bit. I want to make sense of it. I mean, I guess so much so that I would make a whole podcast about it and, put myself right in the middle of it. But I've always just kind of been fascinated by even the people who do messed up things. Why are they doing that? Because I can't ever fathom doing that myself. So what makes someone, evil or do this or whatever? Those things kind of pique my curiosity because I don't understand it really. And I want to get as close to it as I can to it because it's just mind-blowing to me.
Well, the fact that you have millions of people literally listening to your podcast, what does that tell you? That
it's working okay. That I could make one more, I guess. No, I think it's really cool. I never imagined there being, I didn't know what the ceiling was for an audience, right? I thought 5,000 people was cool because I knew it was more Facebook friends than I had at the time. I was like, that's pretty good. I was like, that's 5,000 people, But now, then it became, 100,000, millions. I was like, wow, like I don't even really compute that really. But it's validating, and it really, Up and Vanished season 1 was very hard for me to do. Probably one of the hardest times of my life, to be honest.
Why?
Because I was kind of out there on an island by myself a little bit, and I was very aware of the risks that I was taking, and it was just unfamiliar territory, and it was something very serious that was living, breathing, changing, and I didn't have a blueprint to follow, and I didn't want to misstep or mess up, but I also didn't want to be too scared to do anything. And so, honestly, the listeners really kind of made me feel validated to keep going a little bit.
Now, you and I met when you were doing Atlanta Monster. Mm-hmm. The surprise for me back then was that even though you lived in Kennesaw, you really hadn't heard of the missing and murdered children.
I really, and I hate that that's even true, but I really hadn't. And I was like, my business partner brought it up to me, and I didn't really know what he was talking about. And I looked it up, I was like, oh, how did I not know about this? And I kind of thought, if I didn't know about it, there's got to be other people from my generation or from where I came from who maybe didn't know about it either. And that turned out to be true. And there's others who knew about it but didn't know the whole story or had not thought about it in years, and it was maybe left unsolved in some way for them. And so it felt right to explore this again, and just as a history lesson even.
So let me tell you, this new one with the UFO, that's scary. So what about you? Are you believer or skeptic?
So before I made the show, I always thought it was a fun idea, right? I liked Steven Spielberg. I liked, Encounters, E.T. It's just like a fun thing. Like, wouldn't it be cool if, was sort of my thought line, right? And as I dug into it and really started talking to people, I was like, man, this is ridiculous how real it is. And I was kind of surprised myself. And I went from, sure, maybe, to absolutely there's something going on. Is it everything that we think all the time? No, but I also think that we know nothing. And it's silly for us to think that we know anything.
And kinda. That we're the only creations.
That would be a bigger anomaly than there being thousands of other things out there.
So how do you come up with the ideas for your podcast? They wake you up in the middle of the night?
I go, oh my God. This idea was, I remember like Christmas break 2 years ago, I thought, man, it would be cool if I could make a podcast about UFOs. Then my first thought was, how am I going to pull this off? I know the first thing I was going to say is like, oh no, man, like you're that true crime guy. And it's like, is he going off the deep end a little bit here, right? And I was like, well, how do I tell this story in a way that doesn't feel like it's force-fed to you? It's like all the UFO stuff I've ever watched, for the most part growing up, is like fan service stuff. It's for people who believe in it. And so it makes you feel like, okay, that's ridiculous, come on. But where's the objective approach about, okay, like what's just going on? Because everyone's, I think, curious about that. And if you staunchly don't believe at all, I think that you haven't really looked at the information yet. And I just kind of took that approach and kept building from that, and really wanted to have an investigative approach like I do with any sort of true crime story I'm doing, but just apply it to something different. And I liked the liberty of that, where it didn't have the same sensitivities as other stories that I've been a part of, and it had this sort of fun element to it. And I just like to, be able to show off some of my other passions and skills through that, and also really kind of tell a story that I think needs to be told.
This is the Monica Pearson Show from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Well, one of your passions also is music. Are you still in the band Right Side of the Tree?
I'm not still in the band. Maybe one day we'll bring the band back together, but I did.
You don't have time anymore for your music?
It's like once you're like a music artist at all, you always think about that. I've made songs in the recent past with some of my friends, but not in a serious professional way. I think there'll be a time where I'm like, yeah, like here's some stuff I made for fun and just put it out. But yeah, it's kind of how I got into, like, it's kind of where I got here. I was filming my own videos on YouTube, and then I started doing parody videos of rap songs, and I started making my own rap songs, and they were ridiculous, and people liked them, they were funny, and, garnered this big sort of YouTube audience, and did that for several years. Met a bunch of cool producers in Atlanta that I still know today, and eventually kind of got burnt out and was tired of feeling like a starving artist, and decided to focus more on my filmmaking and try to build a business out of that, and did that for years, and then got burnt out on that too, and then I made a podcast. And it's scary to think back, like, wow, what if I didn't make a podcast? Because if it didn't work, I was just going to pivot to the next thing. It's like, okay, whatever that was, it's like next, but it just happened to work. But I'd failed a million times before that, though. So I still fail.
You still fail at what?
I don't know. It doesn't always feel like you're doing what it may look like.
Okay.
And I like to challenge myself enough to not just be so settled in how cool this is right now, because I think that mindset is a slippery slope sometimes. I like the challenge of doing better than I did last time. So all these other things I've learned become more like autonomous, really. And the challenge is fun. So
you've become extremely successful.
Thank you.
What has it cost you?
Everything. No, I'm just kidding. It's cost me.
You said that as a joke.
Right, but
But I looked at your eyes and I know there's more to that.
There was a moment a couple years ago where I looked up and I was like, how did we get here? And you hear people say that sometimes and you're like, what do you even mean? How do you not know how you got here? But I really felt like I made Up and Vanished. It was a really big success. It was new to me. And my first thought after that was, I don't want to just be the Up and Vanish guy. And I want to grab the bull by the horns. So I immediately went and made Atlanta Monster. Huge pivot, bigger risk. And I took it very seriously. Then I made Up and Vanish Season 2. And then I made another show, Radio Rental. And it was after all that, 3 years, I kind of looked around. I just had tunnel vision on, had the blinders on purpose. But I was like, where are some of my old friends? Or, why am I so lost? And so I kind of had that moment where I had to recalibrate. And that took some time. And that's a constant, look in the mirror reality check that you just got to do, that I still do. But I was able to come out of that alive. And I kind of protect myself from going down that far again. It's been really hard, but I think I'm better at managing it now, and I kind of like the journey. It's like I used to be so concerned about getting somewhere, but it's like I already did things that I thought I would never do. So now I'm just like, well, I want to do the things that I thought I could definitely not do. And if I don't, that's fine, but I like the journey. And like once I accepted that, it became less stressful a little bit.
So how do you relax?
Just with my friends, hanging out, dealing with true crime stuff and heavy material and, a heartbroken family, victim's family. It's very draining and it's a lot. It's heavy. But thankfully, like the people that I work with are like some of my best friends, and we can navigate it because we've learned a lot from each other, and we can it's like our own little adventure that we're on, And if it wasn't that, I probably couldn't keep doing it.
Why the name TenderfootTV?
Well, my dad wanted me to join Boy Scouts. Well, he made me join Boy Scouts. He is a Eagle Scout.
Oh.
He's the middle brother. He has 4 other brothers. They all were Eagle Scouts, basically. And so he's like, I want you to join Boy Scouts. I was like, Dad, I don't want to do that. It's corny. Like, I don't want to do this. Made me do it. I wrote my friend into it. I only made it as far as the first level, which they don't give out for free, but you have to complete stuff, which the lowest rank is Tenderfoot. And I was trying to think of a cool name for my company so I sounded more legit. So I was like, hey, from Tenderfoot TV in Atlanta, which was nothing. It was just me in my apartment. But I heard Sarah Koenig say something about some radio station. I was like, oh, where am I from? And then it just became the name of my company. Yeah, that's the real story. So for that, I'm like, hey, Dad, I'm a Tenderfoot. But still, right?
So your dad cut you off. What's he think of your success now?
They love it. I think that they always probably saw something in me. But even if you're really talented, it's just hard out here. I know very talented people who just haven't got a shot at it yet. I know more people like that than not. And there's so much that's out of your control. So to be able to, be successful in the business side of things too, and be sustainable in any way as an artist is just an accomplishment on its own. And I was really concerned that I could never do it. And if I couldn't do something like this, I would be probably nothing. I wouldn't have a lot to show for anything. But once I got a taste of like, hey, I think I can make this work, I was never, ever gonna back down on that because I knew how scary it was going back that way. So I think they're definitely proud, and I'm just glad that I was able to, complete the loop a little bit and say, hey, like maybe all that dumb stuff I was doing, not going to college, worked out.
Did you give him back his money?
No, don't even bring that up. But I'll say this though, which if my dad listens to this, he knows that we're even because I lived in Ponce City Market, like the flats there for a year or so, and I was the busiest time of my life, so I was always gone. And my parents had just sold their house, and they asked if they could stay with me. I was like, sure, thinking like, how cool is it that my parents wanted to stay with me? Then a year goes by, and I'm like, guys, you gotta go, right? I can't bring a girl over here. So I think we're even now. For as an adult, I mean, they had like all their friends over and stuff. I was happy to have shared like Atlanta with them because they'd never really kind of spent time in the city like that, and they like fell in love with it, which was cool. But I think we're even.
Let's
that tally up those rent checks.
That was the reverse. Usually it's the kids who go live with their parents.
I know. I thought it was really cool. I was like, no, same, yeah.
So what would our listeners be surprised to learn about you?
I think that because of what I do, there's like a serious nature to it that I take seriously. And, I think that every other time I'm like pretty like goofy and silly. And it's kind of how I just even deal with hard stuff sometimes. I think people would be maybe taken aback by that a little bit. But if you know me, you know that I'm like that. And then you know that like when I'm getting serious and down to business, like I do, and I will. But like, I don't want to live in that state forever. I kind of want to just be silly and look at all the silly things in life too. And like, I like that sort of mentality as well. I think people might be surprised that I'm not this super serious detective kind of guy, because I'm really not. I just
play one.
I play one on my podcast.
But that voice of yours is so distinctive.
I mean, that's like, thank you. But I still don't really compute that either. I appreciate that.
You don't?
But I look at someone like you who has that iconic voice. I mean, I grew up, watching you on TV and hearing your voice, never thinking that I had anything broadcast worthy at all. I felt like an imposter doing that a little bit. I guess people, proved me wrong a little bit, but I never really looked at it like that. So coming from you, that means a lot, and I appreciate that.
Oh, no, I love your voice.
I love your voice.
You use music in your podcast in a way to set the scene and then to move from scene to scene. So music is not just for you to play. You really think very seriously about what you use.
Yeah, that's really kind of part of my process. I mean, not everyone is like that, which I get that. But for me, I like setting the tone of this thing. I want to feel what this feels like. And I'm really kind of connected to it in that way. So everything you've ever heard that I was like a strong part of, like any shows that I've hosted, but at some point I felt that to my core. And then I eventually kind of moved past that because I can't live in that state. But I like the music part of it. It makes me feel connected, and I have a passion for music, and it's cool to be able to incorporate that in ways that are cinematic. And one of my good friends is our composer, and we have a lot of fun making bizarre cues, and it's cool.
You really are a musician too.
I mean, not really, but I'll take it. But I think I have that sort of brain, but I've never been like an instrument guy. I could, write lyrics, sing poorly, but also I get the structure and stuff, so I'm able to, utilize music that we have and, maybe disassemble it and reassemble it in a way that is not so banging it on your head and more inviting you to it, right?
What scares you?
Oh, man. I think everything's kind of a little bit scary. Yeah, I mean, I think that just the unknown is scary. And, I think everyone wants a little bit of control in their lives, right? Some more than others. I feel the same way. I think the unknown is super scary. And I've been in so many uncomfortable situations where I thought, like, this is it, or I can't take this, so many times that I kind of just got over it a little bit. I still feel like that, but I know it's not the end of the world. And so I've also learned that I can be more myself because I think that it's going to be okay. I was giving myself all the stress the whole time, like trying to perform for somebody else. But yeah, I think just life is scary. The unknown is scary, but all you can do is what you can do. And that's my mindset, and just hope it works. That's it. But I think the unknown is scary.
Will you ever get married again?
I would totally get married again. Definitely not immediately. At first I was like, I'm never getting married again. But it's not like that. It's more, I wanted to heal from that and move on. But if it was the right person, yeah, I would do that. I'm not necessarily seeking that, but if I, fell in love with that person in that way and it was that part of our lives, absolutely.
But aren't you really truly married to Tenderfoot and your podcast?
Exactly. So I don't want to, and I know that, and I also know that I won't be like this forever. There'll be a time where I can step back a little bit more to do those kinds of things, but I don't want to, overcommit and bring in somebody that I end up letting down because I have to take care of this right now because I'm also looking out for my livelihood. I also want to I want this to work. I want to win so I can, why is my sister, asking money for school supplies? Like, screw that, right? It's like I want to be able to help and create and not think about the bills money part, because that part sucks.
There's still a lot of kid in you.
Oh yeah, I'm a young soul, like truly. But yeah, it's like I don't think I can change that. So if I wasn't a successful artist in any way, I'd be in big trouble. So I wouldn't be paying rent. I bet you.
Payne, thank you so much for sharing this time with me. You don't know how much this means to me. This show was produced by Ryan Horn, Tyson Horn, and Mara Davis. Audio recording and podcast production by Shane Beckler. Our executive producer is Samantha Stamler. Additional production provided by Shia Everett, Kamal McAllister, Jason Lillard, and Kamani Colmer. Special thanks to AJC Editor-in-Chief Leroy Chapman and AJC President and Publisher Andrew Morse. New episodes of The Monica Pearson Show drop every Tuesday, so be sure to follow me on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And check out the videos on AJC.com.
Talking to Death is a production of TenderfootTV and iHeart Podcasts, created and hosted by Payne Lindsey. For TenderfootTV, executive producers are Payne Lindsey and Donald Albright. Co-executive producer is Mike Rooney. For iHeart Podcasts, executive producers are Matt Frederick and Alex Williams, with original music by Makeup and Vanity Set. Additional production by Mike Rooney, Dylan Harrington, Sean Nerney, Dayton Cole, and Gustav Wild for Cogito. Production support by Tracy Kaplan, Mara Davis, and Trevor Young. Mixing and mastering by Cooper Skinner and Dayton Cole. Our cover art was created by Rob Sheridan. Check out our website, talkingtodeathpodcast.com.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Talking to Death. This series is released weekly, absolutely free. But if you want ad-free listening and exclusive bonuses, you can subscribe to Tenderfoot Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to tenderfootplus.com.